My brother thought he was smarter, until he lost everything to me. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I used to believe my brother was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He was charming, clever, always 5 steps ahead in everyone's eyes. Teachers praised him, relatives bragged about him, and my parents, they hung on every word he said. Meanwhile, I was just the other one, always standing in his shadow. I didn't resent him, not at first. I thought that was just the natural order of things. But then he crossed a line I'll never forgive. It started with an opportunity that was mine. I had spent months working on a business proposal for a local startup competition, late nights, endless research, every ounce of energy I had poured into building something I was proud of. I made the mistake of confiding in him, asking for his advice, thinking he would support me. Instead, he stole it. He reworded a few details, swapped my name for his, and submitted my work as his own. And he won. The prize money, the recognition, the applause, it all went to him. I watched from the audience as he stood on stage, grinning smugly, holding a giant check, while I sat in the crowd clenching my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms. My parents were in the front row, beaming with pride, not even noticing the tears welling in my eyes. When I confronted him afterward, his smile didn't falter. "Don't be so dramatic," he said. "You wouldn't have pulled it off anyway. You should be thanking me for proving the idea worked." That was the first time I realized something chilling. My brother wasn't just smarter in people's eyes. He thought he was untouchable. But as I stared at him that night, basking in glory that wasn't his, a thought rooted itself in my mind. He might have won this round, but one day I'll take everything from him. And when I do, it won't be in the shadows. Everyone will see him fall. And that day came sooner than either of us expected. Because the same arrogance that made him believe he could steal from me without consequence would soon become the very thing that destroyed him. After the competition, my brother acted like a king. Every family dinner turned into a performance where he bragged about his hard work, how he outsmarted everyone else, and how he was already planning his next big move. My parents soaked it up, nodding along like disciples to their chosen prophet. I sat there in silence, my food going cold, because if I opened my mouth, I knew I'd explode. But arrogance is a dangerous thing. And slowly, I started to notice the cracks. The first one came from his best friend, Mark. We'd grown up together, but when my brother won the competition, Mark stopped talking to me. Weeks later, though, he pulled me aside at a coffee shop. His voice was low, nervous. "Look, I don't know what's going on between you two, but your brother's been running his mouth. He keeps saying you're too dumb to notice he stole your idea. He laughs about it." That was the moment my anger turned into fuel. My brother wasn't just stealing, he was mocking me for trusting him. Then came the second crack. My brother had used part of his prize money to invest in a flashy scheme. He threw parties, bought expensive clothes, even started posting motivational quotes online like some kind of self-made guru. But money doesn't last long when you think you're untouchable. Bills piled up. Creditors started calling the house. I overheard him in his room one night, voice tight and desperate, arguing with someone over the phone. "You said I'd get a return. I put in 20 grand. Don't you dare walk away from this." That's when I realized something important. He wasn't smarter. He was reckless. And reckless people eventually trip over their own lies. The final crack came in the form of a notebook. He left it on the kitchen counter one morning, rushing out to meet someone. Curiosity burned through me, so I opened it. Inside were half-scribbled plans, deals he was trying to cut, notes about leveraging family assets, and, worst of all, forged versions of my signature. My stomach dropped. He wasn't done using me. He was planning something bigger. I closed the notebook, my hands trembling, but before I could hide it away, his voice came from the doorway. "What do you think you're doing with that?" I froze, the notebook still in my hands. My brother leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, that smug grin plastered across his face. The kind of grin that said, "I've already won. You left it out." I shot back, my voice unsteady but louder than I expected. "What is this? Why do you have my signature on these papers?" He chuckled, slow and deliberate, stepping closer. "Relax. It's just practice. Everyone does it." But his eyes told a different story, sharp, calculating, a predator who'd been caught mid-hunt. I shoved the notebook against his chest. "This isn't practice. You're trying to drag me down with you." For the first time, his grin faltered. You really think anyone's going to believe you over me? His tone dripped with confidence. I'm the golden child. You? You're just bitter because you lost. That hit me like a knife. He always knew exactly where to cut. My parents still praised him daily, still told relatives how proud they were of him. I was the shadow, the one who almost made it. But that moment flipped something inside me. He wasn't untouchable. He was desperate, reckless. And if I played this right, I could use that desperation to finally take him down. I let out a shaky laugh, trying to mask the rage boiling in my chest. You're not as smart as you think. People are already talking. They know something's off. For the first time, I saw it, fear flickering across his face. It was quick, almost invisible, but it was there. He snatched the notebook, shoved it into his bag, and leaned in so close I could feel his breath. Stay out of my way, or you'll regret it. He stormed out of the house, the door slamming so hard the walls shook. And that's when I noticed something. On the counter, beneath where the notebook had been, a small slip of paper remained, part of a contract draft. My signature was there again. Only this time, it was attached to a property sale I knew nothing about. I picked up the slip of paper, my hands trembling. My name was scribbled in bold black ink, signed neatly at the bottom of a property sale agreement. According to the document, I had agreed to sell land I didn't even own, land that belonged to my late grandfather, which was supposed to stay in the family until it was divided fairly. It hit me all at once. This wasn't just about ruining my reputation anymore. My brother was setting me up to lose everything. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the paper, replaying his smug words in my head. No one's going to believe you over me. And the worst part? He wasn't wrong. My parents still worshipped the ground he walked on. If this reached them, if he showed them some official papers, they'd believe him without question. I stuffed the slip into my pocket, grabbed my phone, and snapped photos of it from every angle. My pulse was racing, but a sick thrill stirred in my chest. For the first time, I had something tangible, something I could use against him. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with questions. How deep did this go? Who was helping him forge these contracts? Was he already selling off family property behind everyone's back? The next morning, I decided to test the waters. Over breakfast, I casually asked my mom if she'd heard anything about family land sales. She frowned and shook her head, but then added something that made my stomach drop. Funny you ask. Your brother was just talking to your uncle last week about handling some paperwork for Grandpa's old place. He said you already signed off. My spoon clattered into my cereal bowl. He was already spinning the story, already planting seeds to make it look like I was complicit. I smiled weakly, excused myself from the table, and ran to my room. My hands shook as I dialed a number I hadn't called in years, a friend from college who'd gone into law. If anyone could help me figure out how to untangle this mess, it was him. The line rang once, twice, and then he picked up. Hey, I said, my voice low. I think my brother's committing fraud in my name, and I need proof before he destroys me. My old college friend, Daniel, didn't waste time. He was the kind of guy who could read through a stack of contracts and spot inconsistencies like they were highlighted in neon. I emailed him the photos of the forged agreement, my chest tight with equal parts dread and hope. An hour later, he called back. This isn't just sloppy forgery, he said, voice low. This looks like someone had access to official templates. Government templates. That's not something you pick up online. My stomach twisted. So he's got help? Not just help, Daniel replied. Connections. Whoever made this knows the system. I sat on my bed, head pounding. My brother wasn't just lying to our family. He was playing a much bigger game. And if I didn't stop him soon, I wouldn't just lose my reputation. I could lose my freedom. Daniel told me to keep everything quiet, to play dumb until we had enough evidence. If he's bold enough to forge your signature on land deals, he won't stop there. You need to start watching him. Carefully. That night, I pretended everything was normal. My brother came home late, reeking of expensive cologne, flashing his usual grin. He poured himself a drink and said, almost casually, Uncle's on board now. Once the paper's clear, it'll all look official. You won't have to worry about a thing. I forced a laugh, hiding the storm inside me. He thought he was untouchable. Later, when he left his jacket on the couch, I noticed a folded envelope sticking out of the pocket. My pulse raced. I glanced around. Everyone else was asleep. Slowly, I pulled it free. Inside were 3 documents. All stamped. all bearing my name, all signed by me. My knees nearly gave out. This wasn't one forged contract. It was an entire chain. And at the bottom of the stack was something that made my blood run cold. A transfer authorization with tomorrow's date. If he succeeded, the property would be gone forever. I shoved the papers back just as I heard his footsteps coming down the hall. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, eyeing me. His grin looked sharper in the dim light. I shook my head. "Just getting water." But inside, I knew. Tomorrow was the day he planned to erase me completely. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that authorization form. My name, my fake signature, tomorrow's date. By morning, my hands were trembling, but I knew I couldn't let him pull it off. I called Daniel first thing. "If that transfer goes through today, I lose everything," I whispered. "You need to stall it," he said firmly. "Banks won't halt a transaction just because you say it's fake. You need proof in their hands, fast." Proof. The word rattled in my skull. I had those 3 documents in his jacket pocket, but I couldn't risk being caught stealing them. What I needed was a copy, something undeniable. So, when my brother left for his meeting, I pretended to be the supportive sibling. "Good luck," I said, watching him drive off in his shiny car, too smug to notice the tension in my voice. The second he was gone, I moved. Heart pounding, I slipped into his room and opened his desk drawer. Nothing. The closet? Empty. Finally, I tried his briefcase. Locked. I almost gave up until I noticed his printer still warm. A single sheet sat in the tray, face down. I lifted it with shaking fingers. It was the transfer authorization. Signed. Stamped. Identical to the one I'd seen last night. I snapped a photo so fast my hands blurred, then shoved the paper back and bolted out of the room. My chest felt like it would explode. That afternoon, Daniel met me at a cafe across town. He studied the photo, his brow furrowed. "This is enough to stop the transfer, for now. But if your brother finds out you've intercepted him, you won't just be in danger of losing the property. You'll be in danger, period." As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "Don't get in my way today. If you do, I swear you'll regret it." My blood froze. He knew. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. He knows. He knows I've seen it. My stomach twisted as I realized this wasn't just about the land anymore. It was about power, his power over me. And he wasn't going to let me take that away without a fight. Daniel leaned across the table. "You can't respond. Not yet. If you tip your hand, he'll hide everything. Maybe even destroy the originals." "So what do I do?" My voice cracked. "You play dumb. Let him think you're still in the dark. Meanwhile, we'll push the bank to freeze the transfer until they can verify your signature." It sounded simple, but nothing with my brother ever was. That night, I walked into the house pretending everything was fine. He was already there, lounging on the couch with a drink in his hand, smirking like he'd already won. "You seem nervous," he said, swirling the glass. "Just tired," I lied, forcing a yawn. He leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Stay out of things you don't understand. It'll be better for you." I wanted to scream, to slap the smug look off his face, but I bit down on my tongue until I tasted blood. I knew I had to endure, for now. The next morning, I got a call from the bank's fraud department. "We've received a flagged document with your name on it. Can you confirm whether this is your signature?" My hands trembled as I answered. "No, it's not mine. Someone forged it." "Thank you. We'll be holding the transfer until this matter is resolved." Relief washed over me, but it didn't last long. When I returned home that evening, I found my room ransacked. Drawers overturned. Papers scattered. And on my pillow, a single note in his handwriting. "You think you're clever? This isn't over." The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a trap. Every time I moved, I could sense him watching, waiting, pulling strings in the shadows. The note on my pillow wasn't just a warning. It was a promise. He would destroy me if I kept pushing. I started noticing little things. My laptop screen flickering when I logged in. Unknown numbers calling and hanging up. Even my best friend, Mia, started acting strange, hesitant, guarded, like she knew more than she was saying. One night, I confronted her. "Mia, did he talk to you?" She looked away. He said you're paranoid. That you're trying to drag everyone down with you." My chest tightened. He's turning people against me, one by one. I realized then how far his reach extended. It wasn't just the land. He was poisoning my reputation, eroding my support system, making me look unstable. And worst of all, it was working. But Daniel had warned me this would happen. He slid a small device across the table during our next meeting. It's a recorder. Carry it everywhere. If he slips, if he threatens you again, we'll have proof. The chance came sooner than expected. That night, my brother stormed into the house, furious. His voice thundered through the walls. You think you're going to win? You're nothing without me. I've carried this family for years while you've done nothing but whine. If you cross me again, I'll bury you so deep no one will even remember your name. My pulse hammered as I slipped my hand into my pocket, feeling the recorder humming softly. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because I finally had something solid. When he stormed out, slamming the door behind him, I replayed the audio. Crystal clear. His threats, his arrogance, everything. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the dark, listening to the recording over and over, knowing one thing with absolute certainty. This was the beginning of his downfall. I thought I finally had him. That recording felt like a weapon, a shield, and a key all in one. I played it for Mia the next morning, hoping it would break through the fog of lies he'd wrapped her in. Her eyes widened as his voice filled the room. That's bad, she whispered. He can't talk his way out of that. For the first time, I believed I wasn't alone. But when I showed it to Daniel, he didn't smile. He leaned back, rubbing his jaw, his expression grim. You don't understand your brother, he said quietly. He's not stupid. If he blew up like that, there's a good chance he wanted you to record it. The words chilled me. What do you mean? He threatened me. This is proof. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Or it's bait. He might already have a counterclaim ready. Maybe he's painted you as unstable, paranoid, even dangerous. He's smart enough to turn your evidence into his weapon. I didn't want to believe it, but within days, the proof arrived. My boss called me into his office, sliding a sealed envelope across the desk. Inside was a complaint filed against me, signed, notarized, and dripping with venom. It accused me of harassment, of obsessively stalking my brother, of manipulating recordings to smear him. Attached was a sworn statement from someone I thought was neutral, a family friend, claiming they had witnessed my erratic behavior firsthand. My blood went cold. He knew. He'd been one step ahead, planting seeds so that if I ever tried to fight back, I'd look like the aggressor. When I left the office, phone buzzing with unanswered calls, I saw a black SUV idling near the curb. The windows were tinted, but I could feel eyes burning into me from inside. It pulled away slowly, deliberately, as if reminding me, we're watching. The recorder in my pocket suddenly felt less like a weapon and more like a target on my back. And I realized, with sick clarity, that my brother hadn't just been playing defense. He was already moving in for the kill. The walls were closing in. Everywhere I turned, my brother's narrative spread like a virus. Emails whispered about me, colleagues avoiding eye contact, even extended family echoing his words. I felt like I was drowning in a story I hadn't written, with my brother pulling every string. And then, out of nowhere, came the first crack. It started with a message in my inbox, from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was simple, "You're not crazy." My heart hammered as I opened it. The email was short, cautious. "I've seen what your brother's been doing. You're not imagining it. He's careful, but he slips. I have something you need to see. Meet me. No phones, no cameras." The sender signed only with an initial, R. Every instinct screamed trap, but something inside me, maybe desperation, maybe instinct, pushed me to reply. Within hours, I was sitting in a near-empty diner, nerves raw, fingers drumming on the chipped Formica table. A man slid into the booth across from me. Mid-40s, tired eyes, business casual that looked more frayed than fashionable. He didn't bother with introductions. "I worked with your brother," he said quietly, glancing around. "He thinks he's smarter than everyone, but arrogance leaves footprints." Then he set a folder on the table. Inside were photocopies, contracts, emails, financial transfers, each stamped with dates and signatures that tied back to him. Except some weren't real. "These are the originals," he whispered, pointing to the crisp black ink. "But the versions your brother filed with the bank? Altered. He's been forging signatures, including yours. And I know because I was the one he ordered to make the changes. He thought I'd never keep copies." My throat closed. Proof. Actual proof. Not just his voice, not just my word against his. Paper, money trails, signatures that could break his perfect facade. But before relief could settle, R leaned in closer, eyes dark. You don't understand. If he even suspects I gave this to you, I'll lose everything. My job, my family, maybe worse. You have to move carefully, because he's watching us both now. He slid the folder across the table. My hands shook as I pulled it closer, realizing that for the first time in years, I had real leverage. And that meant the game had truly begun. I barely slept that night. The folder from R sat on my desk, glowing like a forbidden treasure. Every page was a nail in my brother's coffin, his arrogance stamped in ink and numbers. But with proof came risk. If he realized I had it, he'd come after me harder than ever. The first sign that the tides were shifting came quicker than I expected. At breakfast the next morning, my brother was unusually quiet. Normally, he basked in his own voice, making smug remarks that cut like knives. But this time, he just stared at me, measured, calculating. You've been busy, he said finally, stirring his coffee as if it was the most casual statement in the world. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? He smirked. People talk. Papers move. And I can always tell when someone's trying to play me. For the first time, there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. He didn't know what I had, but he knew something had shifted. That was enough to make him dangerous. Later that day, I noticed subtle changes. A friend who used to greet me with warmth suddenly avoided eye contact. My boss seemed tense around me, shuffling papers quickly when I walked in. Even my mother called with a strange tone in her voice, asking if everything was okay between us kids. He was planting seeds again, twisting the narrative before I could speak. But this time, I had something he couldn't rewrite. That evening, I spread the documents across my table, snapping photos and encrypting them in multiple drives. If he thought he could erase me again, he'd be in for a shock. Still, fear not at me. R had warned me. Arrogance leaves footprints, but arrogance also bites back when cornered. As I shut down my laptop, I heard it, a faint click outside the window. Too deliberate to be the wind. My chest froze. Someone was watching. When I flung open the curtain, the street looked empty. But on the pavement, half hidden by shadows, lay a small object. I picked it up with trembling hands. A flash drive. No note. No explanation. Just waiting for me to plug it in. I sat at my desk staring at the flash drive like it was a loaded gun. My hands itched to plug it in, but a voice inside me whispered that this could be a trap. My brother wasn't above using intimidation. What if he wanted me to find something that would destroy me instead of him? Still, curiosity and desperation outweighed fear. I slid the drive into my laptop, holding my breath as the screen lit up. A single folder appeared, titled Insurance. My heart pounded as I clicked. Inside were dozens of audio files, each named by date. I picked one at random and pressed play. Don't worry, they'll never trace it back to me. My brother's too naive to even know what hit him. It was his voice. Smug, careless, dripping with arrogance. I played another. If he finds out, we'll bury him with paperwork. He'll look guilty before he even opens his mouth. My jaw clenched. He had been orchestrating everything, plotting not just to outsmart me, but to annihilate me completely. The evidence was undeniable. And then came the last file. Different from the rest. My brother wasn't talking this time. Instead, it was another voice, calm, unfamiliar. You think you're untouchable, but when this drops, you'll be finished. Consider this your warning. The clip ended abruptly, leaving only static. Who was that? A whistleblower? An enemy of his who wanted me to have this? Or someone playing me like a pawn in their own game? Before I could think further, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number lit the screen. Now you know. But if you want to bring him down, meet me tomorrow. Alone. The address was a place I knew well. Our old high school gym, abandoned years ago. I froze, torn between dread and exhilaration. If this was real, it could finally end him. But if it was a setup, I might not walk out alive. Either way, tomorrow would change everything. The next evening, I stood outside the old high school gym, the place where my brother and I had once competed for everything. Basketball games, grades, even who could hold our dad's attention the longest. Now it was just a shell of itself. Broken windows, graffiti on the walls, weeds pushing through cracks in the pavement. My stomach churned. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But the flash drive's recordings played over and over in my head, each one reminding me I couldn't back down now. If this was my only shot to destroy him, I had to take it. I pushed the heavy door open, its hinges groaning in protest. The air inside smelled of dust and mold, and the echo of my footsteps made me feel like prey walking into a hunter's den. Then I saw him, a man sitting on the bleachers, hood pulled low over his face. He didn't move when I entered, just raised his head slightly, enough for me to see a faint scar across his cheek. "You got the files," he said, his voice steady. "The same one from the final audio clip." "Who are you?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "Someone who used to be on your brother's payroll, until he decided I was disposable." I froze. My brother always bragged about having connections, but I thought it was just bluster. Now here was living proof that he'd been running something much darker. The man tossed a folder onto the floor between us. Papers spilled out, bank transfers, signed agreements, photographs of my brother with people I didn't recognize. Men who looked dangerous. This is what he's been hiding. Money laundering. Bribes. Blackmail. If you want him gone, this will do it. My pulse hammered. This was the smoking gun I'd been searching for. But something still felt off. "Why give this to me?" I asked. The man smirked. "Because when he falls, I want to make sure he hits the ground hard." Before I could respond, the gym door creaked again. My blood ran cold. A familiar voice sliced through the silence. Well, my brother sneered, stepping into the light. "I should have known you'd take the bait." My brother's voice echoed through the empty gym, sharp and mocking. The hooded man on the bleachers shifted but didn't stand. I could feel my chest tightening, every muscle in my body wound like a spring. "You always were predictable," my brother sneered, stepping closer. His expensive shoes clicked against the cracked gym floor, completely out of place in this forgotten building. "You think you're clever, but you're just a pawn. You came running the moment I dangled a little bait." The man on the bleachers scoffed. "Careful," he said. "I don't play games anymore." My brother ignored him and focused on me. His eyes gleamed with arrogance. "You wanted answers? Here they are. Yes, I've been running deals. Yes, I've been making money in ways you wouldn't understand. But you were too weak to ever handle any of it. That's why you were never meant to win." I clenched my fists. "You destroyed everything. My job, my reputation, my life. And you still think you've won?" He smirked. "Of course I have. You can't touch me. Even if you try to use that evidence, no one will believe you. I've made sure of it." The man on the bleachers finally rose, slow and deliberate. His presence was suddenly imposing, like a shadow growing taller. "That's where you're wrong," he said, pulling something from his pocket. It glinted under the dim light. A small camera, its red recording light blinking steadily. My brother's face froze. For the first time, he looked rattled. "You've been confessing on tape this whole time," the man said coldly. My stomach lurched. I hadn't expected this. The hooded man had played both of us, me and my brother, but for once, it seemed like his gamble worked in my favor. "You," my brother started, but before he could finish, the gym doors slammed open. Harsh white light spilled inside, followed by heavy footsteps. "Police!" a voice shouted. My brother's confident mask cracked, and in that moment, I realized the tables had finally turned. The sound of boots striking the gym floor echoed like thunder. My brother staggered back, his confident grin dissolving into a twisted mask of panic. The red recording light on the camera blinked mercilessly, capturing every ounce of his arrogance, his confession, his downfall. "Hands where we can see them," an officer barked. My brother raised his hands slowly, eyes darting between me and the hooded man. "This is a mistake. I was just joking. None of this means anything." His voice cracked, desperation seeping through every word. The officer yanked his arms behind his back, the metallic click of handcuffs sealing his fate. He shouted, cursed, tried to twist free, but it was useless. His carefully constructed world was collapsing brick by brick right in front of me. I stood frozen, watching the man who had stolen everything from me finally lose control. For years, I had lived in his shadow, silenced, gaslight, humiliated. And now, he was the one being dragged away like a cornered criminal. "Wait," he screamed at me. "You think you've won? You're nothing without me. Nothing." His voice cracked again as the officers pushed him toward the doors. The hooded man stepped forward, finally pulling his hood down. His face was older than I remembered, lined with exhaustion, but there was something resolute in his expression. "You wanted proof," he said quietly, holding up the camera. "Now you have it." For the first time in years, I felt my lungs fill with air. The weight pressing down on me all this time lifted, if only slightly. But as my brother's voice faded down the hallway, a chill settled over me. Because winning against him wasn't just about justice. It was about what came next. Would my family finally believe me? Would the scars of his betrayal ever truly heal? As the gym doors slammed shut, leaving me in silence, I realized this was only the end of his story. Mine was just beginning.